the big blue button. So, places everyone. And we are live. All right. That was much faster than it used to be. Welcome everyone to another episode of QuaranCon Continuing Content. That's QuaranCon Cubed for the uninitiated. And we are here today with two truly fabulous guests. Amanda Cherry, who is joining us for the second or third time and who also always joins us for QuaranCon itself, which is lovely. But we have a new presence today also. Erik DeB, is that?
Yes, you got it the first time.
Okay. All right. Woohoo. That is the thing I usually check in advance. However, today was not that day. So anyway, I'm glad that worked out. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for being here. We're here today to talk about the launch of your new co-written book. Yes. Woohoo. There it is. Femmes
That's
Fatale.
the one.
Which I just finished reading yesterday. It is delightful. It is very fun. I really enjoyed it. And so we're going to talk all about that. For everyone who is watching from home, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you two so much for joining us. We're going to dive into all the questions right away. I think I have housekeeping things, but I can't remember what they are. So everyone, please like this video, subscribe to our channel so you never miss our QuaranCon content. And then that takes care of most of the housekeeping. As anyone who watches us frequently knows, I like to start off with irreverent comments or questions that have nothing to do with writing, but everything to do with your personal lives. Or at least a little bit, your not so personal lives. So we're going to start there and move on. And yeah, all right. First of all, the important question, Amanda, we've had you on before. We've talked about your boat. Have y'all gone sailing together?
We tried.
We succeeded one time, but there was no sailing involved. It was
there
all
was just
motoring.
no wind. There was no wind. So we motored around.
Nice, okay.
We got to see like the secret supervillain lair under the 520 bridge, but we did not get to actually put sails up.
Okay.
Which is the supervillain lair of Washington State Department of Transportation. Like they are literally under one of their bridges.
Really?
And it literally looks like a James Bond supervillain lair.
I believe it.
And you wouldn't know it's there unless you sailed by and you were like, wait, what is that? That is a building under an overpass. What? Yeah, that's what it is.
Wow, interesting. And so from there, they just creep up on people and find them for stuff, I assume.
Right. If you're wondering where police cars come from, I think they have little elevators up onto the bridge and they just whoop, here we are.
It's a little spawn point. Seriously.
I was going to say they spawn from there. They're like,
that's right.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes, I have taken Erik and his wife out on the boat. We just were not able to sail. I did make him appear in a TikTok in the middle of the lake where he couldn't escape me. I'm like, I'm making a TikTok right now and you can't leave.
Forced into social media.
Right.
Captive talent, yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good time all in all. Despite the lack of actual sales, would you try again? Would you? Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sailing is very fun.
Okay.
It is very fun, as is drinking wine on boats. So, and we did manage to do a lot of that.
Perfect. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's 90% of sailing anyway. I mean, as long as you're not actively at the tiller.
Well, the first scene of book 2 of Femmes Fatale takes place on a boat.
Excellent.
So,
well, that is exciting and indirectly answers one of my other questions for later. So, but we'll dive back into that. But first, we must continue with the absolutely not about writing talk. And so now you must battle to the death and tell me who has the cutest pet.
She does, probably.
Yeah.
Do your pets know that you're going to admit that Sir Toggle is cuter than your? Do you have cats?
Sir Toggle maxed out on cute points though. Like all of Erik's pets have other fine qualities, whereas my dog is just an adorable lump. So.
I have one dog who is looking very pathetic here in my office right now. who is a shepherd bulldog Malamute mix. She's short haired, dark, stocky, and likes to pull things. That's where she gets. And then I have 3 cats. I have a black void cat who is very, very old, and like she would be offended if I were to call her cute.
Okay.
Named Artemis. And then I have a one-eyed flame-tip Siamese cat named Odin. Nice. He had both eyes when we first got him, but we knew he was going to have one out. So
okay, so you named him Odin very appropriately. Wow.
Yes. Okay. And then we have a very handsome, like 80s bad boy, orange, very fluffy cat named Balder, who knows. He knows, and he uses it to his advantage. He is not cute. He is handsome.
Handsome, I see. And Balder like Baldur's Gate Balder, or
Balder like Balder from Norse mythology.
Okay, yeah. Which is
so it
also where Baldur's Gate.
It's Baldr, but then again, the Baldur's Gate from D&D is named after the Norse mythology too. Or like, yeah. Ed's a big fan. That's what we're saying. Yeah, he's that very handsome 80s sweep the leg Johnny sort of character.
Okay. So you have handsome, dignified, and
cranky. Yeah.
Cranky pets that are not cuter than Sir Toggle.
But Toggle is extremely cute. So
yes, he is. It is apparently his primary function in life. Okay. All right. Very good. Well, I wasn't expecting that to be that easy, honestly. I really, really thought there was going to be more tension with that question.
Welcome to what it's like to work together. Like, we just vibe on that level. Like, and we can even agree on that. Like,
we mostly agree on everything.
We mostly agree on things.
Except that Amanda will never write a plot on her own. She has to have me remind her that the story needs a plot. It's happened 2 times now.
Plot schmott, I believe, is probably her response. No plot, just vibes. Like, I feel like I need that on a sweatshirt. Like, no plot, just vibes.
Well, I mean, that kind of comes down to how we originally started writing the book, which, I mean, I don't want to interrupt your non-writing.
No, let's go. It's all right. We're there. I'm not going to.
Okay. Feel free to ask those at any time, though, because I love those kind of questions. So, yeah, when we started writing the book, it was essentially like, we just really loved this concept. Originally, we were going to write a series of Cobalt City crossover short stories, and they were going to be in an anthology. Right. People would take a character they liked to write about, put them with a different character, and then the 2 authors would work on a short story together. And our bright idea, this was, we came up with this idea literally the first time we ever met, was Ruby, who was, in this book that Amanda was writing, and Lady Vengeance, who was in a book that I had written, and
that I had in my purse at the time.
Right. And we thought, hey, they would have a pretty good adventure together. What would happen if they, were fighting over Jacob for whatever reason? Because, he's such a nice guy, right? Ruby broke his heart, and V is named Lady Vengeance, right? She gets vengeance on people for doing bad things. And then they meet up and find out that, oh shit, the vibes are real. Yeah. The chemistry is much stronger between the 2 of them than between either of them and Jacob. So that was the synthesis of the whole book.
Yeah, it really was like, oh my God, we get the 2 of them in the same room. It is going to be violent.
Yeah.
Until they fall into bed together. Oh yeah, we got to do this now.
Yeah, absolutely. The anthology, the story was originally just going to be basically that first scene. There's a demon in the tower. V comes and helps out, and she and Ruby are like, well, what do we do now? You want to make out? Yes. Yeah. And it was just going to be that. But then the anthology, like, people got busy. We all got beat by the busy stick, and all those stories kind of fell apart, and we didn't do it. And Amanda and I were like, we should still write this. And we did. And it was an excellent creative outlet for a bunch of work. Part of it happened during the pandemic, right? And it was just a great release valve for, stir crazy energy.
It was writer recess. It was like, I want to do something creative that isn't attached to my deadline. Yep. I want to do something creative that like isn't attached to money that I'm going to have to pay back if I don't turn it in. Like, it was just like this fun place to go play and be silly and ridiculous. And it was like that for years. And then early last spring, I'm like, Erik, are we done? Like, I think we're done. And then it turned out there was like one scene that needed to get finished, but literally I'm like, we're done. How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it started out as just a long series of like, they're flirting, they're, in bed together, and they're just snarking at each other. And we wrote like 40,000 words additionally that's not included in the book, which is all just them hanging out and being snarks to each other. And our editor, and we included it originally as like an epilogue to the book. And our editor, Dawn Vogel of DEF CON 1 Publishing, comes back to us and she's like, this has got to go. You can't have the epilogue be as long as the rest of the book.
We're like, but we can't not have the epilogue. I'm like, no, we need all of this. I'm like, we need all of this.
Snark is important.
So her idea was, so she said, she emails us back. We turn it in, and we never planned to turn it in. But when Dawn got wind of the fact we were still working on this, she's like, you will turn this in when you're done. So we did. And she tore through it in like a couple of hours and was like immediately back in our email. And it was one of those like, this is amazing. I love it. I read it in 2 hours. I am dying laughing at a few of these things. It's the best thing either of you have ever written, but. And if that but wasn't there, obviously it wouldn't be a letter from your editor, right? And so she's like, there's way too much epilogue. Like, we need to cut it. And we're like, but we don't want to cut it. And then you read the rest of the email, and she's like, so the best thing to do would be if you do a second book, and you can work all this stuff into the second book.
See, this is part of what makes Dawn such an effective and good editor. She's a pusher. She's like, oh, I see you're still working on this thing, that you're having fun writing. Maybe I can make a book out of it. Oh, maybe we can make 2 books out of it.
2 books out of it.
Oh, and if there are 2 books, well, there might as well be a 3rd book. So
we were like, we can do 2 books. I guess we can do 2 books. And then like, I'm going to tell this story. So we're working on edits and whatever. And I started having an idea, like a kernel to build a second book around. And I DM'd Erik on like a Friday, like lunchtime.
The story does not reflect well on me. Go ahead.
Like the little icon came up that he'd seen the message, right? But he didn't reply to it right away because like adult with like adult responsibilities and things other than paying attention to me.
I think I had 12,000 words of another book to write that weekend.
Yeah, you were like seriously on deadline that weekend.
Yeah.
But I still went completely unhinged. And like, there are TikToks of me going like, this man has left me on red since Friday. It's Monday afternoon. But so I was so just desperate to prove that this idea had legs that I wrote like 15,000 words that weekend in our shared Google Doc. And I was like, so when you get there, you can throw it all away, I promise. But I did a little work over the weekend. And then he finally got there. He's like, what did you do? I'm like, you left me on red for 4 days. I lost my ever-loving mind is what I did.
I went back into my messages and like I had typed out a message and said, oh yeah, good idea. But I hadn't sent it. Like, you know how sometimes you type a message, but you haven't clicked send. And then you realize only a couple of days later, that's exactly what happened to me. And then I was like, this worked out okay, actually, because.
But I was like,
really got uses so.
Yeah. I spent that whole week in completely feral, just like.
Right. And I mean,
you're not writing this, I'm gonna write the whole thing myself.
You didn't need to. Like, obviously, a second book was obviously in the offing, but I'm happy that you did because it gave us a lot of stuff to put in there and start working with. So
well, you happen to. So here's a oh no.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna reconnect, but we're still here. You put this little nugget in the first book and like introduced a character for 3 lines, and I'm like, we're gonna play with him now.
Yeah.
We don't play with that guy. That guy is gravitas. So we will play with him, and we will do him all the harm he deserves.
And that's very reasonable. Yeah, like he was just supposed to be a small cameo, and then, but that leaves that thread to follow up on in the future book.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if we're still broadcasting. I think we are. It says we're still live streaming, so that's great.
I don't know where Virginia
Virginia will be back. I mean, I'm sure her internet just kind of crapped out. It told me that I was the host now, so if she shows up, I will let her back in.
Okay.
So, okay, question unrelated to writing.
Okay.
Of the knives that I brought over to your house to show to your husband, which one do you think went over the best?
Oh, I think he really liked the kukri. Is that how you pronounce it?
This one?
That one from Nepal.
Yeah, it is pronounced kukri. It is from Nepal, or at least it's pronounced kukri if you're a white person like me.
That's fair.
And it is a chopping forward curved blade, traditionally worn at the small of the back. I want to give a brief shout out to the kukri place that makes these in Nepal. They're apparently very inexpensive, and you could just order one if you want to. My wife bought this one in Nepal for like $40 or something. So
yeah, I think that's,
and you could definitely murder somebody with that very easily. Not like that's why you should have one.
We are not advocating homicide, but
right.
Yeah, no, and then the one that was handmade was also really glorious.
Yeah. The wife's special forces knife that I commissioned for her.
Pretty shiny.
Pretty fun.
Pretty shiny.
Yeah, I noticed our girls don't really use weapons very much. Like they're not really combatants. Like I had to write the combat stuff.
Yes, you did, because it is my kryptonite.
There is some combat in the book, and it's mostly like high octane magical combat, because they're both magic based characters, but not in the same way exactly. Hey, Virginia's back.
Hi. And unfortunately, I don't know how much of any of that broadcast, because it's my connection that connects us to the internet.
It's totally fine.
And yeah, I'm terribly sorry. Okay, wait,
Zoom didn't let us know that we weren't broadcasting, so we just went on as though the audience was still there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
It says custom live streaming service at the top, and it says that it turned me into the host. So I don't know if it was still going, but we talked about
so
other
because
stuff.
the YouTube to Zoom connection was still on my laptop, and my whole internet died.
All right.
So I'm currently actually using my phone as a mobile hotspot in order to make this go again, which might wind up being insanely expensive. And let's see if I can get us back. I'm not seeing us on the live stream yet, but I think that's just the delay. So I think we're back. I don't know how long I can do this on my phone.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you need to pause and do this, and figure all this out in a way that's more sustainable for you, we're happy to accommodate.
My current hope is that my internet will return, and I'll see it on my phone when it comes back. And then hopefully this will be no big deal. Alternatively, if it comes back on my phone might use my internet as the boosting point, in which case I think it'll stop charging me data. Anyway, we're going to try to roll with this for a little while. I'm terribly sorry. I have no idea what happened, but my entire home internet just completely crapped out. So
my power went out during the launch event for the Dragonstone conspiracy, literally no electricity at all. Fortunately, a video was playing at the time. So we scrambled to get a hotspot and reconnected and whatever. So when the video went away, and here I was in the dark, just my ring light. They're like, oh, you're doing an ambiance thing. I'm like, no, I'm doing my powers out.
Yep. Okay, it's still telling me that there's an error, and it still isn't showing us as being back, even though the timer is still going live. I'm not entirely
the big blue
sure
button. So
what is happening
places everywhere.
here. Sorry, trying to catch up.
You're in the replay.
Yeah. I do think that we are, I think we're back. The studio's looking weird, but I think people can see us. So we're gonna keep going as if that's what's happening and hope that that actually does. Okay, sorry about that. Ooh, fun times. Okay, when I disappeared, what was the last thing we had talked about?
Well, we talked about why we started writing the book.
Right. And then the continuation. And then we were talking about book 2 and book 3 and Don.
Yeah.
Luring you all in. And
we had agreed to 2 books. And then recently Erik has started using the phrase 3rd book. And I'm going with that. I'm like, we could do this forever.
I interrupted my run yesterday to text her. I thought of the first perfect title for the book, which is Femmes Fatale Triple Threat. I'll explain it later, and then I haven't explained it, so.
But it's okay.
Excellent. That all sounds amazing. So we've covered half the questions I had just with that organic seg, so that's beautiful.
Excellent.
But so you already talked about the anthology and how it, was going to happen, didn't happen, and how y'all just moved through that.
I mean, something like that might still happen one day. And we just, got too busy at the time. It's a great idea. I really like that idea.
Yeah. Well, clearly it was a good idea because it created a great creative co-write with the 2 of you. So let's talk co-writing for a bit because that's a fun thing that not a lot of authors have experience with. And we have probably equal parts readers and authors who watch this channel. So, and I think readers are curious about it too, right? They see 2 names on a title and they're always like, what does that mean? And from everything that I have heard from however many co-writes I've talked to now, it's it's different for every single co-writing pair that I've ever spoken to. So let's talk about y'all. You started working on this. We already talked about why, but then how did you decide to divvy things up? And the book itself has an interesting structure because there's some very clear, character 1 POV, character 2 POV splits. We've got Ruby, we've got Vivian, but there are other scenes where within the scene, we jump back and forth between their POVs. How did y'all decide to do that? And did you exclusively write your own character's POV to start with, or did you swap? And let's talk divvying up.
Starting with, we kind of did. At the very beginning, you gotta understand this was 4 years worth of playing.
Right.
So at first, it was very much Erik would write a scene that was from Vivian's point of view. And then I would go and read it and maybe tinker with it a little bit because I think Ruby would have responded in a different way, or her vocabulary would have her be like this. Right. And then I would do the same thing, a scene that was from Ruby's point of view. And then Erik would come in and tweak what Vivian does and says and what her body language was and whatever. And over the time, we got to know the other character very well and very intimately, so that by the end, either one of us could do either thing pretty much equally well. And with very much the same approach to each of the characters and very much the same understanding of each of the characters. So it was just, by the end, it was just really organic. Whatever needed to happen, if there was a lot of snarky dialogue, I was usually the first one to do that. And then Erik would go make it better. Nice. If there was any sort of action scene, combat, demon slaying, whatever, Erik always did the first draft of that. That is my kryptonite, and he is very good at writing that. So I would just put it in brackets, fight goes here, and then I would come back. By the way, co-writing is amazing in that a lot of authors will sometimes beat their head against the wall and be like, why won't this book write itself? Having a co-author is like having a book that writes itself. Yeah. You leave the brackets in the document and you go away and you come back and there is more book than there was the last time you were there. And it's really good. And it's something fun to read. He would ping me at the weirdest times and be like, so I put some stuff in the Google Doc and I'm running to get to it. I'm must read words.
It's you use up your ideas and your energy and then you're like, oh, well, I'm not really sure where to go from here. And then the other person gets it and they're like, I know exactly where to go from here. So blocks didn't really happen. I think we got blocked briefly, a couple times when we were like, okay, so we know this big action scene needs to happen, but we're not really sure exactly what needs what needs to go into it?
Right.
Like what beats do we have to hit? And that took us a little bit to work through. But generally it was sort of a like, at least for me, it was, how can I entertain Amanda? Like, what can I write that she will appreciate and it will spark something fun from her? And so that, I think that was a good way to go with it. Like she was saying, we initially started off writing our own characters pretty much exclusively. I'd get to a point and I'd say, okay, I think Ruby would have something to say here, so you should probably write some Ruby stuff. And then she would write some Ruby stuff, and I would tweak it, and I'd write some V stuff, and she'd tweak it and then write some more Ruby stuff. I think generally my Ruby is a bit sleazier and her Ruby is a bit classier than mine. And that kind of reflects the characters too, because V is obviously a hot mess and Ruby is a little bit better put together. Like, okay, she's extremely well put together, but it's covering up a deep well of
she is also a hot mess. She just wears it well. She's a hot mess in like $1 million suit. So
like we were kind of prodding on each other, pushing on each other's characters. And that's a pretty classic way to do a co-writing situation. Is each of you has one character or story that you're kind of pushing, and then you weave them together. And that's where we started. But eventually, toward like the back third of the book, it just became this synthesis of just we were working on the same story together, which was really cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Now that we're writing book 2, like I wrote a big Ruby scene, and and it was fine.
I had to make one tweak, and I'm like, no, girlfriend's putting her shoes back on.
Yeah.
I'm like, literally, like that was the only change.
Sleazy versus classy. All right.
I was like, no, she's not walking across the floor without her shoes. No.
So there's this one scene in book 1 where they go into this club and they're dressed very differently. Like one of them is wearing white and the other one's wearing black, and they're like attention grabbing. And they get in there and it's only so effective. And I don't remember who had the idea. It was probably V's idea to go in the back and just switch each other's outfits and make it obvious that they had done this, right? And that would, draw more attention to them. And I initially said, yeah, they're going to go in the back in the bathroom and make out and switch outfits.
And I was like,
and Amanda was like, no,
my girl
Ruby would not do this.
So I'm gonna park a limo in the alley because she would absolutely do it in a limo. And
so V starts taking them to the bathroom, and Ruby's like, no. And out into the limo.
It was Ruby's idea to change clothes because she's figured out what's happening and what the magic is. And so she's like, they march out the back door, and Vivian's like, that's not our limo. And she's like, you're right, it's not, and gets in. Yeah.
That's a memorable scene. Sorry, especially because of the costume change and the leash involved. Anyway,
there's a leash. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. It is fetish wear. It is. Yeah.
It is very appropriate to the scene. So, yeah. But that actually brings me to another question I had, which was about spice level overall. Because it's an interesting mix to me. Like there are a lot of hot scenes, but they all fade to black before anything gets too detailed. But it's very clear like what's happened before and after, right? So what made y'all decide on that particular spice level? Like, did you choose it intentionally? Was it organically just how everything was written down? Is it, like those choices always interest me in terms of like how much was intentional, how much of it was just that's what happened and you didn't feel like changing it? Or
it feels like that's just where it landed. Although we have discussed turning up the heat for the next book. So we may cut away later.
I mean, we did suggest to Don that we should launch the VNR porn empire.
We're like Cobalt City After Dark. Okay,
we're
gonna.
And she was like, "Hold on." So I think part of it
to edit that, but
part of it was just organically. Like that's the kind of style and tone that we're both accustomed to writing. Some of my stuff has been a little bit more adult than what you'll get in this book. And my World of Ruin series, which you could see up on the shelf behind me, has a lot more overt sex stuff that happens in it. But I think generally, like, that was just kind of the happy medium that we settled on. And partly we wanted to be kind of consistent with the rest of DEF CON 1's publishing oeuvre, right? Like, they don't do a lot of the hard sex kind of stuff, and there's a lot of fading to black, and we're aiming for kind of a soft R rating, not a hard R rating, not an NC-17 rating. Right. Book 2 might be more of a hard R rating.
A little more. This man has in fact put smut in the Google Doc. I've seen it. I've read it with 2 eyes.
It's true.
It was delightful. I enjoyed it greatly.
Sex and violence, baby. Yeah.
With these girls, one of the challenges is, and I can't believe I'm about to admit this out loud on Beyonce's internet, but it's early. They're a lot kinkier than I am. So like, implying that some shenanigans are fixing to happen and actually doing the research to depict those things accurately in a way that members of those kink communities would find decent representation, like that's work I don't know that I can do. So to imply that these sorts of things are happening and let my readers take it fill in the blank to their favorite place is a good way to honor people in those communities without having to like go spend many hours in the library hoping to find accurate and you know. So
I mean, the reader's imagination is the writer's most powerful tool. Totally. Sparking that imagination is what we're aiming to do. And like Amanda was saying, being able to kind of reach out to and honor kink communities, queer communities that we personally might not be involved in. I'm a boring cis straight white guy, right? Like, my romantic life is pretty vanilla compared to anything that I've written in most of my books. My imagination, well, it goes quite farther, but like, you know, I am not part of one of those communities exactly, but I respect and acknowledge and want to celebrate them. And, you know, the character that's who she is, right? That's, yeah. So I don't want to come across as disrespectful, and I don't want to come across as ignorant. And so I leave a few things kind of in the shadows to be filled in by the reader's experience and imagination.
Yeah. It's totally fair. I was not throwing shade, by the way. At the black. Just wondering if it was, you know, how conscious of a choice it was. I mean, there's also a
little bit of nod to the goth subculture and community.
I noticed a few of those. Yeah, no, and all of that is super fun. And actually that leads well into one of my other questions, which was that the book is, sorry, I'm sure the other books are too. I just started off with plural when that was not appropriate, but the book is, I've only read the one, super fun. And it comes across very lighthearted and fast-paced and actiony. And yet there are still these sort of deeper emotional issues that both characters are dealing with. And I really like the way y'all balanced complex characters with traumatic pasts with the sort of fun, lighthearted, actiony, adventure-y type story.
But good. I'm glad that worked. Okay.
But that was my question. Did you find that easy to balance, or was it an effort, and how conscientious were you about that while writing?
I mean, that's just kind of like, my writing is very much in that sort of vein. Like, that's the kind of thing that I try to do. I try to balance, you know, wit and fun and enjoyment with heavier stuff, ground it in those heavy themes. And the kind of theme of Ruby and V basically saving each other from their from their inner demons emerge organically throughout the story. Like that wasn't originally what we intended. What we originally intended was these two kind of like somewhat screwed up people get in a situation where they can help each other and they have this nice moment and they make out a little bit and that's the end of the story. But then we were like, no, we're going to write more, and it evolves in that way. Like it starts there and then it goes to deeper places because both of them have extreme intimacy issues, right? Oh my God.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
I mean, that's that's how I explain the book to people is, makeouts, yes. Sex, yes. Battle together, yes. Friends, oh shit. Right? How do we bridge that gap between these two extremely wounded people? And well, the sex helps, but like there's more kind of like actual relationship building that goes on in the course of the book, and maybe they're not aware of it. Right? It's just kind of happening to them and they're like, oh yeah, this is fun, I'm having a good time. Oh shit, now there's some pressure on me, I got to make choices. And the most pivotal part of the book, at least in my mind in this respect, is toward the end when Ruby, well, I don't want to spoil it, but Ruby has a really big scene where she helps V in a very important way. Yeah, no spoilers, but that is
actually the whole back third was like my favorite part of the book. I enjoyed everything leading up to that, and it was fun and actiony. Also, my perception of the book is horribly affected by the fact that I kept getting interrupted by life and having to put it down for the last month and a half. Like it's a short book, and it took me 6 weeks to read it, but only because I basically had to squeeze it into like meal time. So I was like, I'm eating and now I can read for like 15 minutes and then I have to put it away. Anyway, so that slowed me down. And then, but I just dove through the final third of the book and felt like the emotional stakes, in addition to the physical stakes, were the most compelling and satisfying out of the entire book in that final third with the climax and everything. And it was so well done. Like I really feel like y'all totally nailed the landing on that. It was really, I enjoyed the heck out of it.
We really, it was fun. And I think the fact that we were writing for fun, and like Erik said, we were writing to entertain each other. And by the end, we just sort of found this vibe where it was just go, go, go. And the fact is, yes, we have a book that has some depth to it, but it's also like an enemies to lovers, like tropey romp, which is great because we do have these two deeply flawed, damaged characters who refuse to connect, or at least refuse to admit they've connected. But that's not the book we need right now. We don't need the book of sadness and angst and trouble and tears. Like that's not the book we need right now. I have the sadness and angst playlist. Like we could have written a much sadder book. We could have written a book that was way less fun, but that's not what the world needed right now. The world needed this like gay romp through exorcism with like a whole lot of shagging and acres of snark. Like yes. that was the book that we needed to write right now.
I certainly agree that the world needs more of that book. Yes. And that this was a great version of that. And it's a quick, fun read. To anyone watching right now, if you're debating whether or not you should pick it up, you should pick it up right now. Use the link in the description and go get it. Because yes, fun action adventure romp time awaits. So let's see, where does that leave us with questions now? Okay, so we've talked about some of the highlights of co-writing, like the book writing itself, how much fun it is. Are there any things you want to add to that? And then I want to ask about the challenges of co-writing. So
I mean, no, it was great. Find your storytelling soulmate and like latch on and never let them go, because like it's the best.
I find Google Docs kind of annoying in certain respects.
Yes.
Like I tend to write a lot of M dashes, and Google Docs requires you to write three hyphens to make an M dash. That's how you do it.
I didn't know. There are a bunch of just like really messed up. It's just 2 and it doesn't do a thing.
Right.
I learned
2 creates an N dash, which is not how it's supposed to work, Google. You were programmed poorly. And Google also
it'll take you back to the top of the document, like for no reason.
Right. Yeah. Which gets really annoying when you're like 50,000 words deep. But like, and I dislike how Google Docs does not do word counts the way Microsoft Word does. You could just immediately see where you are. And that's a blessing and a curse, because, you know, that number can be motivating, but it can also be intimidating.
I literally just went and checked.
Yeah.
I'm like, anyway, I just checked our word count.
So yeah, that's all I got to add about that. So those were basically the challenges of co-writing in this way. I think generally it went really well. Like there were long stretches because of that we were writing for fun and to entertain each other. There were long stretches where we just didn't do anything on the book because we were busy with something else. And there was always a little bit of a kernel of fear that we might not get back to it, that the project might fall apart, that we might not finish it, that we might not know what to do next. The good thing is 2 heads are better than 1. So like one of us will eventually have a good idea for where to go in the book. And often we'd come up with things that we want to have happen at some point, but we're not sure exactly how they fit in. So like we'll write them in the document, and then the other person will go, I think I can create the connective tissue to make these things come together. Which like Amanda was saying, it's like a book that writes itself.
There's something I wrote for the second book that in my head was the next to the last thing, like the second to last thing that happened. Like this is going to happen, and then the result of it, and that's the end. Like that's it. And Erik was like, no.
What if we made that the first thing
that happens in the book?
Yeah.
Like we open on and then like the big, the painful thing, it's not the second to last thing, it's the second thing. And so now the lie has to persist for all of this book. And I'm like, you made it worse, which made it better. I think, yes, the times that we both kept getting hired to write other books is great, but it did mean that the story sat on the back burner a lot. But it turns out on the back burner long enough, it will eventually become soup. Every now and then I would like have a little note in my DMs. We really should finish that story sometime. And I'm like, we really should. The flavors marry eventually. Yeah. I don't even know how long. I was still really intimidated by him.
It's true.
And so I would like have to really work myself up to doing anything in the document, because like I could not let him see the messiness that is the inside of my head. Like, can't do that. Nope. Sorry. He's no. So that part, it was hard for me to get over the imposter syndrome. And like, I honestly, for a while had to go back to the initial email when the anthology was first proposed of Erik asking me if I wanted to write this with him, because I would never have asked him. I would have been terrified.
Right.
So I'm like, no, really, this is consensual on his part. I am not like bullying him into doing like, this is genuine engagement. And it took me a while to get over like being scared.
Yeah. I want to see the mess in your head.
He's like, give me the mess. And he was Marie Kondo. Like, I love mess. Give it to me. So
it brings joy.
Yes. Well, that is amazing. I'm glad you overcame that particular fear and worked up, because it's a fabulous book. It's really great. And Erik, I haven't read your other stuff, so I cannot compare, but Amanda,
there's a lot of it.
Your strongest piece yet. And
I tried to send her eye for an eye, and Canada said no.
Canada said no. It was so, but it's
How dare you try and send this smut here, America? Eye for an eye is not especially smutty, although there's a little bit of sleaze in it. It's true.
I appreciate smut.
Like, I think one of my favorite lines you've written is Vivian talking to Jacob, like, yes, your wife is hot. Yes, I would hook up with her. No, you cannot watch.
An absolutely reasonable stance. I don't know why my I have a US Amazon account, and that's what you sent it to. And I don't know why it didn't work, but it was just giving me a country error over and over again. Amazon gets weird about gifted books, like in general. Like it's hard for you to, anyway. I actually went ahead and purchased a copy in addition to that, but it's just that it's going to take me, I don't know how long to get to it, because I have so little time to read that it took me 6 weeks to finish a novella. So,
well, the villain in Eye for an Eye, it's going to be a major character in book 2.
All right.
He has a brief cameo at the end of book 1.
Yes. Gotcha. Yes. I can guess who that is then.
Yep. And Ruby is very unhappy with his behavior in book 1. And that is the impetus of book 2. Because the girls
did not listen to me.
Book 1 is basically the meet cute stage, right? It's the establishment of the relationship. They're not really dating exactly. I mean, they're together, but they don't have labels on it, you know. And then book 2 is they start getting more involved in each other's lives, and that it has its own challenges. Because, I mean, at least for me, a lot of the way that romance is coded in a lot of our fiction is the building up to the relationship stage.
Right.
Like when things, when the book is over, they're married or they start dating or they ride off into the sunset together. Well, what happens in the sunset? That's what book 2 is. It's the evolution of their relationship once they're past that initial phase. The honeymoon is eventually over.
It gets real ugly.
Yeah, but you know, when things get ugly, that's when people are tested. That's when you get those heavy things, you know. And I think it's going to be a good book. And then book 3 is also going to be a good book. Book 2 is called Bad Intentions, by the way. That's the subtitle.
Nice.
Well, for now, I mean, it might change. Working time.
Listen, this book is the first time I have ever turned something in that wound up with the title on the cover as the same title I turned in. And it was because Erik came up with it. I was like, I didn't give it the title. That's why the title stuck. I never am able to come up with titles. So he can keep making the titles forever.
I do like titles. I like naming things. It's true.
He's bad at it. I'm so bad at it. See, the things he's really good at: naming things, combat scenes, action scenes. Like, he's very good at that, and that is no. So
she's really good at the intrigue stuff and the PR stuff that V has no head for, but Ruby is like mistress of this because Amanda knows this stuff. So the characters reflect our personalities in certain ways, and it's just a very good partnership for this.
And the amount of research I've done into like billionaire lifestyle stuff, it's true. Like, I can tell you exactly where and on what airplane Vivian's gonna spill soup on herself in the second book. Like, I know what the chair looks like. I have it. It's up on my screen right now. Like, I know like what. I can tell you exactly in the hotel scene. Ruby's in a pink shirt and a white suit and pink pumps with red soles. I could send you exactly what pair of Louboutins she's wearing. Like, I know there's a thing in the second book where she's wearing it's a green Malandrino, and like I vaguely described the dress, but I have the dress in a photo. Like, I sent it to Erik. I was like, this is the dress. So
in case you need help visualizing, that's
right. In case you need to know, this is the green Malandrino, and it's these Manolos and like this bag, and
I'm shows up to their date wearing a shredded Nirvana shirt. Anyway.
Yeah, yes. That did happen.
That both of those things seem appropriate to each character, so I think that's solid. It's very fun to hear about these little details of the writing process. Okay.
I do want to say one thing about the stories. So Amanda has the advantage of having written an entire novel that is entirely about Ruby, and that's Rights and Desires, which people should check out as well. Obviously takes place before this book does. I have also written a novel about Lady Vengeance, entirely about her and her life in Seattle and meeting people here. And I am planning to crowdfund it starting in January and then publish it next year. I wrote it a few years ago, and I've been updating and fixing it up, and I'm excited. It happens again before this book does. Gotcha. So V doesn't know Ruby in the context of this book, right. But when I get to book 2, it might Femmes Fatale might have happened in the interim.
And that's Ruby has a second solo book. It's drafted. Yep. I will turn it in as soon as we turn in Bad Intentions, because it starts weeks after the end of Bad Intentions. So one of the things that we had first, one of the things that got cut from the epilogue, would have been the end of the first book, is now the end of the second book. And a moment between them actually has way more gravitas with everything they now will have been to up until that moment. It was almost fluff in the first book, and now it's like really much deeper. It's a much better place for that scene. But so the second Ruby book, which it has a title and it might get to keep it, but I'm not going to say it out loud because I jinx it.
Don't jinx it.
Starts just a few weeks later. So like that's where their relationship is at the beginning of that book. So the evolution of where they are in each other's lives and like how they remain in each other's orbit is going to inform the third book and like another Lady Vengeance book. And like we've had conversations of stuff that's like years in the future. So eventually I'm going to do this. And so when you said you might want to do that, just so you know, when I do this, that might be a really good impetus for you doing that, because if anything is going to send her that far off the rails, it's going to be this thing over here. So
that is cool. Do y'all keep a timeline at all that is like an essential doc that's just
we really should, but
we probably should. We should. There is a Cobalt City wiki that all the authors get access to when you first get hired to write for the IP, that it is very much a victim of first time author syndrome. And that is that the first time you get access to the wiki, you're like, I shall update all the things, and you do. And then maybe the first time you write a brand new character that has never appeared in the IP before, you're going to go in and you're like, I have a new thing. It is shiny. I shall add it to the wiki. And then you never touch it again. So I went in there looking for details on a character that I'm pulling in from way back in the day. And I can't even tell you what book I need to read to get this story.
Whoops.
There's a lot. There's a lot of Cobalt City stuff out there.
There is.
Nate Crowder has been writing. Yeah, he's been writing in the setting for many, many years, decades at this point.
And you're very bad at updating the wiki.
And DEF CON 1 is constantly putting out stuff. And Jeremy has written a number of stuff about kind of younger characters who are related to the Cobalt City and who occasionally appear that cross over into our work.
I was about to say they will in fact be featured side characters in Ruby's sequel. Oh. She's got a lot of money. She can hire people. And basically that book opens with she's got a problem. She tried to solve it with magic. Magic wouldn't solve it. And so now she's going to solve it with money.
Okay.
That was one of the things we talked about during the maybe we're still recording, maybe we're not, is about how the girls resolve problems. Because I am, generally speaking, a fantasy action adventure writer. Like, I've written a lot of fight scenes, and our ladies don't really fight all that much. They don't carry weapons, first of all. Like, their weapons are their wits and snark, essentially. But V's powers,
need a weapon, I am one.
Exactly. V's powers allow her to construct weapons, but they're both basically magic-based characters.
Right.
And her claw is mostly an arcane focus. Like, it improves her magical abilities, which allows her to compete a little bit with Ruby, but Ruby is generally the far superior sorceress. Because Ruby is trained and practiced and studied and knows how to do all this. So V is winging it like she has been her entire life. So I'm eventually going to write the girl vengeance stories, which is V as a teenager, because she thought girl vengeance was an excellent name, as a goth teenager would in the early 90s. And yeah, she was winging it then. She's winging it now.
Yeah, Ruby is very, I mean, one of my favorite things that keeps coming back around in this book all the time is that know how trumps talent every day of the week. Like if you know how to do something, it doesn't matter that maybe that isn't the thing you do best. If you know how to do it, then like, so she's done her homework. She knows what she's doing. And she's also, lazy isn't the right word, but it could be, very efficient. Practical. Like the fastest and least taxing way to do the thing is what we're going to do. So if the fastest and least taxing way to do a thing is I'm going to use magic to pinch off someone's carotid artery and get them to have a stroke, and just, that's what we're going to do. Whatever it is, it's whatever is like the fastest, the least energy intensive. I do not want to have to blot when I am done if I don't have to. And if I chip a nail, it's over for you bitches. So
V is generally pretty flashy and big and like, I'm doing a thing. Here it is.
And it's like in the beginning of the book, Ruby's like leaning on her desk just casually with like serious level enchantments all over the place, but like, can't tell. Super calm. Aren't you cute? Making fun of my chairs.
That is one of my favorite lines that we wrote in the book, where like she has this imported desk of recovered wood from an ancient castle, and like chairs draped in this restored Moroccan leather.
Notes of it.
And V sits down in one of the chairs and she's like, "Oh, this leather is real nice. Is it Corinthian?" And I said, if Ruby could have knocked herself out by rolling her eyes, she would have. Like,
oh, honey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. They are as likely a pair as they are unlikely, honestly.
If ever two characters deserved each other.
Well, we've covered like just about every question, even without asking them. So I feel like the next thing to do, especially because we're hitting the hour mark here, and y'all probably have other things to do with your day.
I suppose.
Eventually, I don't know.
I mean, I think I'm gonna go to Sephora and like possibly finally pull the trigger on that Charlotte Tilbury Flawless filter, but like that's my.
Well, that makes me want to come back to our fluff questions a little bit. So first of all, how are the Oreos? I need to know.
Oh my God. All right. You want to take this one, Amanda?
I mean, they're gorgeous. For people who don't know, who aren't following me on Twitter, why are you not following me on Twitter? It's a dumpster fire over there, but like, it's great.
I mean, how would we really know if we're following anyone on Twitter?
I know. Oreo has a thing where you can go on their website and get your own art put on an Oreo cookie, and they'll put sprinkles on it, and like it's super cool. And I did it for the book launch, and my only complaint is that the white chocolate dipped ones were a little too sweet for me.
Okay.
But they were gorgeous. They like have ruby and white chocolate, and then the ones with B were on dark chocolate with purple sprinkles, and Ruby's had green sprinkles that matched the cover. They were amazing. They were a huge hit. I still have a few. Like, people were afraid to eat them, so I'm gonna bring them on Friday to our event at Main Street Books in Monroe. I'm gonna let the booksellers have an Oreo. I think they'll get excited about that. But
excellent.
It was great. The Oreos were a big hit. Highly recommended. They were not inexpensive, but if you are an author and you are launching a book, it is tax deductible. You get some tax deductible Oreos, friends.
There was also a cake, which had two layers because, well, the two ladies who are very different, and the layers of the cake were very different too. Yeah, that was nice.
And only one of them had booze in them, which was really the most out of character thing of the whole night, is that there was one bit of cake that didn't have booze in it.
That is true. That does seem out of character.
There is a lot of drinking in the book.
There is a lot of drinking.
Well, V is a, mostly functional alcoholic, and that has to do with her powers, right?
Right.
And, being an alcoholic and being addicted to alcohol. And I don't want to glorify or gloss over that as like it's fine being an alcoholic. You might have superpowers. No, it's a significant flaw and hazard to her character, a hurdle that she's trying to overcome.
Right.
And Ruby just likes to drink because what else do you do with your time?
And your money.
And your money.
Honestly. You have a lot of money lying around. There's a lot of really amazing alcohol to try in the world. So presumably.
Very true. So yeah, there aren't cocktails in the first. I'm trying to think. There's cocktails and she drinks them, and there's the bottomless mimosas, and there's the wine, and then there's a lot of drinking in this book, but like it's okay. They're enjoying themselves.
He does not overcome her alcoholism in this book, but it is a theme that's going to show up in the books going forward. I mean, it's partly in this one too. I mean, the alcoholism makes her difficult to be with and difficult to deal with. And that becomes much more pronounced as time goes on. It's hard loving an alcoholic, right? And sure. I wanted to bring that across in the book.
Yeah. So on that really upbeat note.
See, like balance, mostly fun, a little bit heavy.
It's still a gay romp. It really is. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
It has its moments.
It does. It does have its moments. So the Oreos were reasonably delicious?
Yes, they were reasonably delicious.
Reasonably delicious. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it because I saw that they were beautiful, but I wanted to know if they were actually tasty as well. Because I feel like that's important in an Oreo.
Yes.
It is.
Maybe just because like you might buy one box of custom Oreos just for the look of them, but if you like are actually going to buy enough to feed people, you would want them to really be tasty. Right. So
yeah, we actually did. I did a dozen of each girl, and then I did some DIY Oreos because we had a couple of gluten sensitive folks coming to the party, and they do not yet offer custom Oreos and gluten free. So I went and got gluten free Oreos and like hand dipped them and did like fancy sprinkles in the book cover color. So we had two kinds of Oreos.
Amazing, love it. That sounds like a very fancy book launch, and I'm very sad that I don't live closer because I would have really enjoyed.
It was pretty fun.
Going to that. Well, let's see. So the Oreos were delicious. The cake was delicious, thank goodness. And I think my next couple questions are just about y'all's other work, where to find you on the internet, let people know about other things they can read that you've written if they've already purchased Femmes Fatale, as they should have by now at this point in the video. They should already have their copy winging its way to them or on their Kindle.
It's real cheap, everybody. Please go buy it.
It's true. The Kindle version is only $2.99. We were like aware we wrote a novella, like we're not gonna charge you more than it's worth.
We wrote it for people to read it, right? That's what it's for. So enjoy, please. Buy yourself a gift.
Buy yourself a gift. Buy yourself. It's cheaper than a coffee. Get yourself this enjoyable romp. I really enjoyed it. It was so fun. And I had an ARC, but I also bought a copy because that's how I roll. So, but yeah, y'all won't regret that. Please get yourselves a copy of the book. What else have you written that people can find? Erik, maybe limit yourself to a couple.
Okay, so my Forgotten Realms novels, there are 5 of them.
Yeah. You
can get them on Amazon. They're all out of print, but you can get the Kindle versions pretty easily because they're old. Like the most recent one is 2012. And the World of Ruin books, you can also get on Amazon or I think Barnes and Noble is still around, or some other service. Yeah, and obviously I have more Cobalt City and Justice Vengeance stuff coming up. I am writing another book. I'm not entirely sure how to acquire it, so I'm not going to tell anything about that. I have a website, eriksgotttobe.com, where you can see my ramblings and my bibliography. I used to be very reliably available on Twitter under my own name, Erik Scott to be, but Twitter is very unreliable these days. So
sad violin.
Yes.
Yes, fair. Thank you for all of that, Amanda.
Let's see. I am at Manda the Ginger on both Twitter and TikTok, and those are my two most used platforms. I will be on Twitter, like I will be the one playing Nearer My God to Thee as the ship goes down. Like, I am the dance band on the Titanic, and I'm proud of it. So I do that. I do have a Facebook. I don't use it very much. I have an Instagram, but it's under my derby name, and I don't really use it much either. My website is thegingervillain.com. I do try to post updates as far as like events, conventions, online appearances. I probably put this on there sometime. Did I actually publish it to the website? I don't know. I'm actually very bad at computers. It's true. Yeah, that's where you can find me. You can find the two of us this weekend at Main Street Books in Monroe, Washington at 5:00 on Friday evening, and at the Book Rack in Oak Harbor, Washington. That's out on Whidbey Island for all you Island County people. Someone is actually coming to you. That's at 5:00 on Saturday evening. You'll see me around, not this weekend, but usually at Jet City Roller Derby and the announcer booth. Like, always come find me, say hello. Like, yes, please. You can find everything else I've ever written also on my website.
But I want to list out some things so Rights and Desires, which features Ruby and is amazing. And then in a different IP, which is the one thing that I wanted to ask y'all about, but we didn't really get to it, but that's okay. We'll save it for next time when we launch book 2.
There we go.
The Dragonstone
Conspiracy. Yeah, the Dragonstone Conspiracy. That book punches Nazis.
Yes, and that is very fun as well.
That book was fun. And it's still doing stuff. Like,
yeah,
people are still discovering it and buying it, which I love. One of the great things about writing tie-in is that people can discover the IP elsewhere and like still come and find you. So I love that, and I will forever love my little Nazi punching book. I have been told that there's a chance that my my two little government boys might show up on film. So that's exciting. Cool. I'm like, you're gonna what? So that could be really neat. That's like one of those author bucket list things when you write a character and then like they wind up on TV or in a film. So that could be really cool.
Well, and your awesome main character already has shown up on film.
Well, yeah, I stole her from a movie. Like she had already done that. Oh, and Erik didn't say this. You can find us both now. I'm getting to do a really cool thing on the Dungeon Scrawlers Twitch channel.
That's true. I also host a D&D game.
What?
Yeah. Dungeon Scrawlers. That's dungeon and then scrawl.
Not
E-R-S.
Dungeon Scrawlers, but Dungeon Scrawlers. Okay.
As in everybody's a writer. All the players, all the DMs, everybody's a writer. They've been doing this for a long time, and I had watched the streams and like been a fan, and they started this mini campaign. It was going to be a one shot, but it evolved quickly into a mini campaign in just like a really cool setting called Grey Mantle. That's Allie Pitchford's baby as far as world building goes. It's very like Dickensian almost. And it was a really perfect fit for me because I get to be like the Victorian creepy doll of my dreams. And it's super fun. They invited me to do one episode and then I got asked back. And so now I'm going to be doing that for.
Well, all the other players loved you. So yeah, obviously.
So yeah, that's super fun. So yes, watch us play D&D.
Woohoo. That's always a good time.
That's Wednesdays, 6:30 Pacific time.
Nice.
And you can go to dungeonscrawlers.com for information. You can find it on Twitter. We're at Dungeon Scrawl, because Dungeon Scrawlers was taken anyway. Yeah, January will be our 3rd anniversary of being a live show. So
very cool.
It's been pretty great.
If y'all want to send me links, I can pop them into the actual YouTube description to make it even easier for folks to find all those things.
That's easy.
Aside from like, the book link is already in there, but we can add all kinds of stuff. So, but it would be, just email it to me. And, oh my goodness, this was so fun. I don't know which is more fun, the book or this chat. Oh, the book was really fun. I'm sorry. Y'all are great, but the book was amazing. I don't know. This is
glad it worked out.
I don't know. Well, which is preferable, right? Do you want to have this chat actually be more fun than the book, or the book be more fun? I would say this is a good teaser.
Yes.
Right? I like that it's on the level.
Yeah.
I like that it's on the level.
If you found this chat entertaining, you are surely going to find the book entertaining, I would say, is a safe bet. Also, if you didn't find this chat entertaining, that's a little weird, but you'll still probably find the book entertaining because the book is entertaining in an entirely different way, or a partially different way, somewhat different way than this was.
It is very much fun. It is two of the worst people on the planet, and that is what makes them perfect for each other.
Yeah, it's hilarious for them to interact. I mean, the worst people on the planet. I feel like there are worse people than either of them, but you know,
they encounter some of those people.
I mean, they do, right? Like, you gotta have goals.
God damn it, Tony. Anyway, it's fine.
Damn it, Tony is pretty much like the theme of the second book. Damn it, Tony. We hate him. We hate him together. We hate him a little bit. We hate him for different reasons.
Well, but it's cool writing about anti-heroes who defy easy classification. They're neither good nor evil. They're somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Yes. As a person who literally ordered a sweatshirt yesterday that says, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem."
I swear,
yeah, it was
it's like Taylor got the
Taylor
memo.
Swift to put out an entire album for Femmes Fatale. Like, thanks, lady. You did that just for me. So
it's pretty amazing. Like that is an utter coincidence.
Neither
of us knows Taylor, to my knowledge. Amanda
might. I mean,
I'm
aware
of,
that Amanda doesn't.
All right.
Literally woke up the day that album came out, and my Facebook timeline was like chock full of people having sent me different videos, being like, did you know about this? Like, I didn't, but thank you. Thank you, Ms. Taylor Swift.
Excellent.
So yeah, there's a soundtrack recommendation. If you're reading the book and you want some music on in the background, turn on Midnights.
Okay. Good to know.
Puppy.
I was gonna say, I thought I saw some dog scratching going on. Dog scratches.
Come on. Yes, climb up here. Come on. Yeah.
This dog is the size of a small island nation. Like the fact
she is.
Compared to Toggle, maybe.
Oh no. All right.
All right. She's not coming. She's like,
she's like, nope.
Right,
no, thank you.
Hard no, Dad. Yeah, fair enough.
Yes, I could just pet your head. Yes.
Yeah. She's like, angle the camera. No.
I mean, it is. I
mean, I do always want to see the pet.
There she is.
Oh, she's so sweet.
Yeah.
Look at her. My daughter is coming running. She heard me say, "Oh," she's like, "It must be a dog."
It's an animal.
It's an animal. But sorry, kiddo, it's off screen again. Tapping secret head is now popping in the video. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up because I'm about to be invaded by a small child. But thank you all so much for your time. Thanks to everyone in the audience who's watching now or watching later. And y'all have been absolutely amazing. This was a fabulous chat. Everyone go check out Femmes Fatale right away. Please buy a copy of it for you and 10 more copies for all your friends and tell everyone you know about it. It is a delightful romp of a book and I hope y'all read it. And again, thank you so much for being here. It was really lovely to meet you, Erik. Amanda, it is always lovely to talk to you. And I will be hitting the end live stream button now. And we're done.
All right.